All right, this is Chris Webster from Chris Webster Productions, and this is a demo on recording and editing with Garageband. Okay, not really so much on recording. We'll talk about that, but mostly on editing. And I'm going to be using some real files that we have here. First thing I want to show you is the organization that I have here. So I create top-level folders, but within there, you can have your podcast be out here, your episode, but within here I have sources, files, and versions, and I number these so that they show up consistently in the same order. And I have a bunch of space between the audio files and the versions, so I can add other folders as necessary. Sometimes I'll have a media folder or a review folder or something like that. And then I have, in the sources here, I have 3 files. I've already found music that I want to use. And then I've got the 2 files for the people whose podcast this is. You can see that they're WAV files, and this one happens to be an MP3. If at all possible, you want to use WAV or lossless files in everything that you do. But if you can't, then these will work just fine. All right, so this is with GarageBand, as I said. And when you first open GarageBand, until I have you create a template, you're going to see this screen, okay? And you don't want to use any of their pre-formatted stuff because they used to have a podcast one, but that just doesn't work anymore. So choose Empty Project. We'll just double click on that. And it opened up on my other screen, so let's move that. Okay. And it brought me up a message about using my H6 here, which I'm using to record because it sends to microphone, so we didn't do that. All right, so for each one of your tracks, you're just simply going to use, and see this says audio up here, you're going to use the little microphone track here. And you don't have to check any of that. You don't have to do anything. This can go right into input 1. We can create. It's probably the last time you're going to do that. Okay. Now, when you first turn on GarageBand, this little quick help button thing is on, and every time you click somewhere, it's going to show you different things. So we can turn that on. You can see where all the stuff is. And then you can turn it off. For now, let's turn everything off and get it out of our way because we don't need to see it. So we'll turn off the library over here, and these are up here. We'll just turn off the controls down on the bottom as well. Okay? All right, so I'm going to make this window just a little smaller here so I can bring back my Finder window. Okay, so again, I have the files here. And I'm just going to bring it in. So I happen to know that Karen here is the host of this podcast. So I'm going to bring her in first. Get that started. It's going to do a sample conversion. Bring everything in. Okay. It's there it is. All right. It'll build that waveform. Now to bring in the next track, I really just have to bring it in right on the bottom here. It will create a new track. It will title it the title of the track. So if you have weird titles on your tracks, then you go from there. But a lot of times I'll just have different titles on my tracks. I'll call this host, and I'll call this guest. And then I can bring in the music right now. I usually don't do that till last, but I can bring that in now just to show you. So the song is called Tenderness, and let's change that to just music. Okay. Now this is picking up all my microphones and stuff, so that's why you see the track here. Any track that I have highlighted, it's going to pick up while it's highlighted, the music. So don't worry about that. No, not that big a deal. On this side here, you can decrease and increase the size of this panel. Do whatever fits for the size of your screen. Unfortunately, in GarageBand, you can't change the size of these tracks here up and down. You can pinch and zoom on your mouse or do whatever you got to do to see the entire waveform like this. Now some other setup stuff that you're going to notice, you'll see these up here. This is set up for music, so these are all beats and measures. First off, we'll turn off the count in, we'll turn off the metronome. We don't need any of that. Click on this little thing here and it changes it to time, okay? Now when I zoom in and out, it just changed. It took a second, but it changed. And now I can see the actual time up here, okay? Now when we're editing this, I don't want to hear the music. So any track I don't want to hear, I can hit that button to silence that track. Now if I play this,
hi, this is Dr. Karen.
Then I hear just that, and I'll also hear the other track.
Works with people.
Okay. If I use the headphone button, that makes it a solo track.
Who are in career transition.
Oddly, I can click that on multiple tracks.
That I know.
So if I had to say 15 tracks rather than muting 14 of them so I can hear, or 13 of them so I can just hear 2, I can just hit solo on the 2 and then hear those. So that's pretty handy. But for now, I just want to mute this one. Okay, now I'm going to show you some simple editing techniques, some things you need to know. First off, in GarageBand, when I hover over the end of a track here, you'll notice this little symbol. That means I can bring this in just like that, okay? But one of the fundamental key things you need to know about GarageBand and most audio editing programs, this is called the playhead for one. So we bring this up here. And when I right-click or use Command-T on a Mac, or probably Control-T, actually, you're using a Mac, so Command-T, I could choose Split at Playhead, and it's going to split the track that's highlighted. And you can tell it's highlighted by the color here. This one is not highlighted. This one is highlighted. So it's going to split at Playhead. Okay, so let's move this down just for demonstration purposes. So you can see that that's split, but really what it did was made a copy of the file all over again. Because if I go here, I've got the file back. So just telling you that it's really non-destructive. If you do some weird splits and you don't think you can get them back, you can always get them back. So let's Control Z that, which means undo. Bring that all back here. All right, so now what I usually do for editing, and I'm really just going to go through the editing workflow here so you can see how I edit podcasts and how things go. And I'm going to show you from start to finish the whole entire thing. One of the things I do is I get rid of anytime somebody's not speaking, because you see all these tiny little dots here? That's little deformities in the waveform. That's somebody's mouth noises or room noise or something like that.
Hi, this is Dr. Karen Gedney, and I am here today on my show, a unique program that I know for myself I would have loved to have is really all about.
Yeah. So our company works with people.
Okay. So let me go ahead and split that again. Right there. And you can see
all about.
Yeah. So our
So that's kind of an unnecessary yeah. So this is a good point to show you where we can move both tracks. Let me check my notifications here. Okay, so I want to move both of these. So I just drag, and on a trackpad I do it with 3 fingers. I just drag and highlight both of those, and then I can move this in. If I want to pinch in here and zoom in just a little bit to see where Johanna starts coming in.
All about.
So our company works with people.
That's good. One reason I move both of these, obviously, is because these tracks are in sync. This is voice. You see that? Where Karen is speaking, Johanna is not. So you got both of those things going on there. You don't ever want to move those.
Who are in...
Let me see how long this is. Okay.
In career transition. Those are people who may have been working in a job or an industry for some time where they feel that they have unfinished business and it's not being implemented in their present career or present job.
Sometimes the whole screen will start moving. You can make that stop just by overriding it.
It could come out of any field, law, medicine, marketing. It doesn't...
Okay, I heard something back here.
So it could be someone who could...
Okay, so that doesn't sound good at all. So I accidentally did that because I'm used to another program. All right, let me take a look here. Let's move the playhead. We can just split this once to get rid of that, and then drag this one over. And you don't want to cut it too close because it is a natural pausing point, so I'll overlap those just a hair.
Who could come out of any field.
Okay, so she's got an
who could come out.
She's got a couple things here. Let's get rid of that. Oh, see how that top one's moving? I made the cardinal rule mistake in GarageBand, and I had them both selected. So I'm just going to Control Z, undo, unselect that one, and then come back here and do this. Okay. And I'm also going to get rid of this long here. Now I select them both again. Bring that back in.
Who could come out of any field, law, medicine, marketing, it doesn't really matter. But for some reason, there's still something else that they'd like to do, and they're trying to figure out how they can take their present skills and implement them somewhere else where they're making an impact in life, in the world, in some way that they're going to leave more of a legacy than what they're presently doing.
Track was selected.
I think that is something that's incredibly
And that little break when she started talking, I think was okay.
That when I went from 30 years behind bars as a prison doctor to something entirely different. I'm curious, what group of people do you think are the ones who truly access your program the most, and why do they do that?
So the first group of people who reached out to
I'm going to
me
get rid of
were
Johanna's
people.
and I'm going to bring this back in a little bit.
Had a career break.
The most, and why do they do that?
So the first group of people who reached out to me were people who had a career break. So think stay-at-home mom or dad, someone who took care of their parents, someone who was in a failed startup, someone who aged out of a career. I mean, in Silicon Valley and tech now, it seems if you're over 35 or 40, you've become a dinosaur in your field. And they had trouble getting back into their own field, their original field. And then they began to think that maybe that wasn't the place for them anymore. Maybe they needed to think about what they really wanted to do. I mean, when we think back on how we've chosen our careers generally, oftentimes we have majored something in college where maybe our parents suggested that major, or it simply was the easiest thing for us to get the most credits to just get through. And then at the end of college, often we're hired by a company that decided that we may have the skill set that they need, but it isn't really us thinking about what we want to do. It's someone deciding that we can help them. So we're almost basically building someone else's dream, if you think about it. And then maybe you might decide to go off to business school or law school, get a master's in something, and then usually, once again, we're hired by somebody for our skills. And in general, there's only when there's some sort of a transition that forces us to think about where we are and why we're doing what we're doing, that people begin to think, maybe there's something more. Maybe I need to make the choice in life rather than have someone else make the choice for me.
I could understand that.
We can bring that a little tighter for Karen.
Someone else make the choice for me.
I could understand that when you talk about it, that's something that
I'm both selected.
A lot of people need help with. Now, I understand you came from a background of investment banking and doing marketing.
Management consulting and brand management. Yep.
Right. And can you tell our listeners how you decided to get involved in that particular area? Because you also had a pivot, and why?
I did. Well, a couple of things happened. One is I am...
Okay, let's stop that. She has some stuff there at the end. We'll go to the and
you
why.
You also had a pivot, and why?
I did.
Okay, it's just little remnant breath sounds. No big deal. I think we'll get rid of those and keep on going.
You also had a pivot, and why?
I did. Well, a couple of things happened. One is I was a stay-at-home mom for a while. And when I went back into the workforce and decided to find my next opportunity, it was amazing.
Now that was just a little too tight for this editing program, but I can try to... Here's another thing, too, to remember. When you zoom in, it zooms into the playhead. That's this thing here. Okay, so let's just, to demonstrate how easy this is, cut that right in the middle. Make sure nothing's selected. We'll drag that one that way. We want to save some of that space on the end. And then I make sure to come back and select both of these when I move so it remains synced. Come right back into there. So zoom out when you're going to re-listen to a section and go back a suitable distance to really understand what you did.
The workforce and decided to find my next opportunity. It was amazing how difficult it was for me to find someone to hire me. Once you have a career break of any sorts, interviewers see...
Let's get rid of that. Johanna. Okay. Bring that in. Bring that in. Select them both. Come back and line up.
Of any sorts, interviewers seem to think that you've... Interviewers...
Okay, she looks like she... Okay, so that's moving both, but in this case, I don't care. There's nothing up there to delete.
Sorts, interviewers seem to think that you've lost all your talent and all your whatever you've learned, and it was a decidedly difficult time for me.
Because she changed her sentence there.
At that time, I was also very active in some volunteer work, and I reached out
I
to
made sure
a
to
number of
deselect
career
both of those
coaches
before I went up
to
here.
get some help for myself and also to put together an event
It's hard to
for
remember.
one of my alumni groups. And it turned out to be the largest event ever. People came from all walks of life interested in potentially a
Okay, let's get rid of this. Again, I'm just going to cut this anywhere since I got to move it twice anyway. Rather than doing 2 cuts, I can just cut those right there, bring those here, drag this back in
potentially a career pivot, whether they were stay-at-home moms and dads or presently working. It didn't really matter. So what I found is that there definitely is a group of generally well-educated, successful professionals
Moved them both.
who
This is why I don't
could
use
have gone
Garageband.
many different directions in
I'm just
terms
not
of a
used to it anymore.
career.
Used to use it for
And
years.
are now saying that, I've done this for, let's say, 10 years or 20 years maybe. Let me see what else is out there to see whether there's something else
Let's get
maybe
on
I
Joanna's
still
track
have to
with
contribute to
Control-T
the
or
world.
Command-T.
How about this? Let's say someone does really want that
That was a new
help.
thought.
Are they looking at
From Karen, so I'm
attending
gonna leave that
workshops,
space there.
seminars, online,
I've got Karen's track
combination
highlighted so I
coaching?
can
you explain,
cut her
let's
the minute
say,
she's
the
done.
logistics and the nuts and bolts?
Right. So I'm gonna turn this around and ask you a question. When is the last time someone asked you what your values are? What's really important to you? What drives you? What kind of work environment would you love to get up for every morning and get going?
Well, I'll have to say my husband did that when I told him, I don't know what I'm going to do.
There you go. And therein lies
Okay.
the issue,
While she's
is
talking, I
that
can get
most
rid
of
of
us
these,
really haven't
tighten that
thought
up,
about
bring these in.
about our
And I'll
values,
move
about what drives us, about what we
all this
love
over
to
just a
do,
little
about
bit.
what we do well, about what we would do for no pay, because we just enjoy that so much. And that's the first thing that we do with people, is really
Oh, we're
delve
halfway done.
into who they are. I mean, there's no right and wrong answer. It's who are you and what do you really want to do and what do you love in life, and start envisioning that. And from that, we start working on, clearly communicating what that is about you. What are your values? What's your vision? What's your skill set? Because the best way to find your next opportunity, if you're pivoting, is to very clearly communicate what you're looking for. I find most people love helping other people. The reason they don't is they don't know how. So if you tell me that you're looking for a job, I don't really know what to say. I can say, well, Walmart's hiring. That may or may not be a good fit for you. But if you're very specific about the type of environment you're looking for, are you the kind of person who likes to work alone? Do you want to work remotely? Do you like to be in a hustle and bustle of an office? Do you like to work outside? Okay, do you like a growth environment? Do you like to learn on the job? Do you like to do the kind of more rote activities like in manufacturing? Once we start to hone in on that and start networking with people in those industries, you get a sense of what it's like to work in those industries and where you're a great fit. And that's what we do. That's very different from other
Planning on
organizations
cutting
that
Johanna
help
at the
people in
end here?
this way. Is not only do we delve into your values and your vision, but I have over 11,000 contacts on LinkedIn. I can pretty much find someone at almost any company or any industry for you to talk to get help. They may have a job for you, they may not. But I have found that every person has 3 to 5 people that can help any other person. And so I help you develop your network until you find work you love.
That sounds wonderful. Is that
Okay, I'm going to bring this in just a little more, just to tighten it up a hair.
At work until you find work you love.
That sounds wonderful. Is that done through coaching or a seminar? How is it really done?
Yeah. Well, we do it in various ways. I work.
Okay, the yeah is not necessary. We'll tighten that up.
How is it really done?
Well, we do it in various ways. I work independently with people one-on-one who prefer to work in that way. We
If you
also
like the
have
auto
small
scrolling,
groups that get
you turn it on
together
right here.
either in person or
This will
online.
move until
that
the
help
playhead
one
is in the
another
middle
in
of the
that
screen.
regard. So we
But you
either
can
work on
deactivate
this.
it just
I've
by
written
moving
a
the
50-page
screen there.
manual that helps people
I don't like to
step
have it
by
turned on.
step to get through this process. And some people like to do individually with me, and some people like to do it in small groups. But at the end of the day, what I have found is that if people are looking on their own, it takes them generally 18 months to 2 years to find something. And when they work in a very accountable manner with a lot of guidance, they're generally able to find their new opportunity within 3 to 6 months.
Well,
Okay,
that
I cut that one a little
sounds
short, but I can fix it.
extraordinary. I'd like to close with asking you.
Okay, so Karen is very deliberate, which is great.
I'd like.
Well, let me just put her here. Let me do this. Let me cut that. I'm going to tighten her up just a little bit more. So I'll make 2 clips. Pull that. We'll pull that a little bit. We're only removing about a second's worth of audio. Let me highlight all 3 of those because I got to move them anyway. And then I'll just highlight these 2. We'll bring these in.
Extraordinary. I'd like to close with asking you
Deselect.
to look back since
I think I'm gonna tighten
2013.
Karen up here, too.
We're talking almost 5 years now that you've been in that business.
Now, this waveform editor doesn't show you a lot of detail here. You can hear
Business.
there's a little bit there, a little bit of a breath. We don't really need that. Well, let's bring this over.
At business. How many
Okay, so her breath is kind of cut off right there now. So let's just get rid of it entirely.
business? How many
not
people
bad.
have you really helped and worked with? I'm just curious.
Mhm. Well, I've hosted 11 conferences in both the Bay Area and
So her little we got rid of that.
Curious.
Well, I've hosted 11 conferences in both the Bay
Every time.
Area and in Manhattan. And we have worked with, wow, certainly hundreds, could be well over 1,000 people at this point via the conferences, via one-on-one coaching, via small group workshops. We also host an online learning site called Connect You. And so if people can't come to the conferences or would prefer to learn on their own how to make progress, they do it in that way. So we reach out to people in whatever way works for them, because this actually is a very personal journey for many people.
I definitely agree because I experienced that myself, and it sounds like your company really gives that personal touch with that deep networking alignment as well. Could you tell the listeners the best way to contact you and your
All right.
organization?
Sure. Well,
That was
via
a great
our
way to
website,
end the podcast,
Connect,
Karen.
Work, Thrive. And if you get onto the website, we have a blog that you can sign up for. We have a way for you to schedule time to speak with me one-on-one. I'd be happy to do so. I'd love to hear more about your journey and your hopes and your dreams and see how we can help. There are also ways on the website to
Those are my
sign up
emails.
for industry training or one-on-one coaching or group coaching. So whatever way works best for you to make concrete progress, we're here to help.
Well, thank you, Johanna. It was a wonderful opportunity to get to know you, and I am sure our listeners will love this ability to pivot when they are ready.
Thank you.
So let's do some music real fast here, and then I'll be able to show you automation. So I'm going to turn these off here. Okay, so if you hit the A key, turns on automation, which basically allows it so you can do some adjustments. And when I click into the track here, I'm going to get volume. And right here is about where I want it to decrease in volume for her to come in. But first I have to select everything, move it down. Let me select all the things here. I want to move all this down. See if it'll stay. Okay. And now make sure just this is selected. Bring that down just a little bit.
Hi, this is Dr. K.
Maybe down a little farther. Okay. Let's bring this back over to the beginning after I selected everything. And I like to stop the music when the guest starts talking. It's right there. And then I will cut this. Okay.
Hi, this is Dr. Karen Get. Your program is really all about.
So our company works.
All right, so that's the beginning of the song. Now I'm going to take the end of the song and finish out the podcast. Okay. I need to increase the volume here so I can hear it. Just bring it back up to 0. Now first I'm going to listen to the song, find out where I want my out point to be. That's a good spot right there. About -15. We'll make sure it's -15 all the way down. There we go.
This ability to pivot when they are ready.
Thank you.
Okay, so I finished this up. Now I just need to figure out where I want the music to come in, and that's usually when the guest starts to, or the host starts to wrap up.
Concrete progress. We're here to help.
Well, thank you.
So that's a good spot right there. So there's 2 ways to do this. I can either just create another automation right here and then split this clip. But just to show you, I can also drag over all these and bring these little guys in. And just raise it up right there. Now this won't play, but I still like to clean it up. And I can either do that up here in the bar, or I can turn automation back off and bring this all the way over. But if with automation on, I can see where my volume point is.
Yes, we're here to help.
Well, thank you, Johanna. It was a wonderful opportunity to get to pivot when they are ready.
Thank you.
I think I actually want that a little tighter. Right on that downbeat. And I'll bring this music up faster.
Pivot when they are ready.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, 2 more things to do. See this little thing up here? This is the end of the recording area, which will end up in 10 minutes of dead space at the end of your podcast. So you want to just grab onto that and drag it in. And that's right at the end there. Do that after you're done moving everything around. Okay. And now let's turn the EQ back on. So we're not going to get into this too much, but there's a couple things you need to know about making people's voices sound good. Let's do this first. The compressor will take all these lows and bring them up, and the highs and bring them down. Basically, if I just turn that on, since I'm listed on Karen's the host track, then it's affecting the host track. We'll turn the EQ off right now. If I play this,
is something that's incredibly
this
needed, because I experienced
until I see it
that
activating,
when I went from
then I'm probably okay.
30 years behind bars as a prison doctor to something entirely different.
She's got a lot of lows.
I'm curious.
We'll add a
What
little more.
group of people that's
She doesn't have
incredibly
enough high.
needed? Because I experienced
Brighten up her
that
voice
when
just
I
a little
went
bit.
from 30
That's a low
years
cut. Sorry,
behind
turn that
bars
back
as
up.
a prison doctor to something entirely
I'll just
different.
add a little bit of all these.
I'm
Until it
curious,
sounds good.
what group of people do you think are the ones who truly access your program
bad.
the most, and why?
Let's do the same down here.
The first group of people who reached out to me were people who had a career break. So think stay-at-home mom or dad, someone who took care of their parents, someone who was in a failed startup, someone who aged out of a career.
Because
I mean,
that
in
basically just
Silicon
moved those to
Valley
where
and
they need to
tech
be.
now, it seems if you're over 35 or 40,
You
you've
can go to
become
the
a
EQ
dinosaur in your
if you really
field.
want to see it, but
And
you
they
don't need
had
to do that.
trouble
Just use
getting
it for
back
girls.
into their own field, their original field, and then they began to think that maybe that wasn't the place for them.
Okay. So that's it for editing. So when you save this, make sure that none of your solo tracks are checked. Make sure your headphones aren't checked. You want everything to be playing. Otherwise, if I do this, it will just export that track, and you don't want that. So we go share, export song to disk, saving this as my podcast, MP3 128, export. And I already had a file there, so I'm just saving over the top of it. Okay, that's done. Let's look at the Finder. See what this sounds like.
Hi, this is Dr. Karen Gedney.
Concrete progress. We're here to help.
All right, seems like it's all there. So one thing you can do at the beginning and end, if you have a Mac, it doesn't really matter, is don't forget to save this. It'll save as a band file, which is unopenable by anyone except people with Garageband. So keep that in mind. And that's where you save it in your little, oops, wrong one. Yeah, okay. That's where you save it in your little files here. And I'm going to save that here. I've already got one there. We'll just call this episode 1. Okay. Now while that's saving, you can also save a template. And I'll show you how to do that now. Now a template is going to be great once you have that, because you'll just be able to open your template. Your music will already be there. Your track EQ and controls will already be there. And everything will already be set in. You'll just have to drop your tracks in and move things around and do your editing. But to create this template, I'm first just going to delete all this. Let's get rid of that. That's pretty much it. I've got host, guest, music, and all this here. So when I go to save, I'm going to do save as. And then I'm just going to call this podcast template. And actually, I want to put it back here. And I can just leave it on the outside here. Actually, normally what you would do is you'd have a podcast here and you leave it on the outside, create a new episode for each one. So I'm not going to do that, but then you'll have your template. So let's just save it in Karen's folder here for now. Okay. Now when I close this, podcast template. There it is. So I can just drop my files on here and get to work. That's it.